Welcome back to Bible in a Year. This is a series where I go through the entire Bible in 1 year. I am your host, Kenneth Glenn. And today we're going to be going through Genesis chapter 18, and we're going to be going all the way through to Genesis 20. Before I get into the episode, there is a trigger warning. So this video will mention sexual assault and rape. It's only one chapter where it's going to be mentioned, but if that's a trigger warning, I might advise you to skip this video, or not skip the video, but skip at least that part when I get to Genesis 19. Because today we're going to be going through Sodom and Gomorrah, and this video is also just going to be a very frustrating video because the decisions that many people in this part of the Bible make is just deeply disturbing, very frustrating, and you'll just see later in the video. Without further ado, let's just get into this. All right, chapter 18, verse 1. The Lord appeared again to Abraham while he camped near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. One day, about noon, as Abraham was sitting in the entrance of his tent, he suddenly noticed 3 men standing nearby. He got up and ran to meet them, welcoming them by bowing low to the ground. "My Lord," he said, "if it pleases you, stop here for a while. Rest in the shade of this tree while my servants get you some fresh water to wash your feet. Let me prepare some food to refresh you. Please stay a while before continuing your journey." "All right," they said. "Do as you said." So Abraham ran back to the tent and said to Sarah, "Quick, get 3 measures of your best flour and bake some bread." Then Abraham ran out to the herd and chose a fat calf and told the servant to hurry and butcher it. When the food was ready, he took some cheese curds and milk and the roasted meat, and he served it to the men. As they ate, Abraham waited on them there beneath the trees. "Where is Sarah, your wife?" they asked him. "In the tent," Abraham replied. Then one of them said, "About this time next year I will return, and your wife will have a son." Now Sarah was listening to this conversation from the tent nearby, and since Abraham and Sarah were both very old, Sarah was long past the age of having children. She laughed silently to herself. "How about a worn-out woman like me have a baby? Or how could a worn-out woman like me have a baby?" she thought. "And then, my master, my husband, is also so old." Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Why did she say that? Or why did she say, 'Can an old woman like me have a baby?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? About a year from now, just as I told you, I will return and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she denied that she had laughed. But he said, "That's not true. You did laugh." So in this part, we get to see generosity from Abraham, which is going to be very unique for this part of the Bible, because later on we're not going to see as much generosity coming from other people. And it shows us like Christian principles and how people who follow God are going to be mostly nicer, or people who actually follow God are just genuinely nicer to people. So instead of just seeing the guests and seeing the travelers and saying, "Hi, how's it going?" Or instead of just sitting them aside and giving them like whatever food, he gives them the best food that they have. He takes the fattest calf and gives it to them, skins it, and makes the meat. He takes the best flour, makes them the best bread, and then on top of all that, he sits them down in the shade where they're comfortable. It's just a really good gesture compared to what we're going to see when we get into Sodom and Gomorrah, where they're treated not so well. They're not treated as well as Abraham treats them. And it just shows the difference between a world that follows God versus a world that is a secular world that doesn't really care about anything. Verse 16, "Then the men got up from their meal and started towards Sodom. Abraham went with them for part of the way. Should I hide my plan from Abraham, the Lord asked. For Abraham will become a great mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. And I have singled him out so that he will direct his sons and their families to keep the way of the Lord and do what is right and just. Then I will do this for him all that I promised. So the Lord told Abraham, I have heard that people of Sodom and Gomorrah are extremely evil, and that everything they do is wicked. I am going down there to see whether or not these reports are true. Then I will know. The two other men went toward Sodom, but the Lord remained with Abraham for a while. Abraham approached him and said, Will you destroy both innocent and guilty alike? Suppose you find 50 innocent people there within the city. Will you destroy it and not spare it for their sake? Surely you wouldn't do such a thing, destroying the innocent with the guilty. Why you wouldn't do that? Why would you be treating the innocent and the guilty the exact same way? Surely you wouldn't do that. Should not the judge of all the earth do what is right? And the Lord replied, If I find 50 innocent people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake. Only if Israel can take that tip. 27. Then Abraham spoke again, Since I have begun, let me go on and speak further to my Lord. Even though I am but dust and ashes, suppose there are only 45. Will you destroy the city for lack of 5? And the Lord said, I will not destroy the city if I find 45. Then Abraham pressed his request quite further. I suppose there are only 40. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy it if there are 40. Please don't be angry, my Lord. Abraham pleaded, Let me speak. Suppose only 30 are found. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy the city. I will not destroy it if there are 30. Then Abraham said, Since I have dared to speak to my Lord, let me continue. Suppose there are only 20. And the Lord said, Then I will not destroy it for the sake of the 20. Finally, Abraham said, Lord, please do not get angry. I will speak but once more. Suppose only 10 are found there. The Lord said, Then for the sake of the 10, I will not destroy it. The Lord went on his way. When he had finished his conversation with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his tent. Chapter 19, verse 1. That evening the two angels came to the entrance of the city of Sodom, and Lot was sitting there as they arrived. When he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Then he welcomed them and bowed low to the ground. My lords, he said, come to my home to wash your feet and be my guests for the night. You may then get up in the morning as early as you'd like and be on your way again. Oh no, they said. We'll just spend the night out here in the city square. But Lot insisted, so at last they went home with him. He set a great feast before them, complete with fresh bread, made without yeast. After the meal, as they were preparing to retire for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, "Where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out so we can have sex with them." Lot stepped outside to talk to them, shutting the door behind him. "Please, my brothers," he begged, Don't do such a wicked thing. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Do with them as you wish, but leave these men alone, for they are under my protection. Stand back, they shouted. Who do you think you are? We let you settle among us, and now you're trying to tell us what to do? We'll treat you far worse than those other men. And they lunged at Lot and began breaking down the door. But the two angels reached out and pulled Lot and bolted the door. Then they blinded the men of Sodom so that they could not find the doorway. Do you have any other relatives here in the city? The angels asked. Get them out of this place, sons-in-laws, sons, daughters, anyone else, for we will destroy the city completely. The stench of the place has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot rushed out to tell his daughters, fiancés, quick, get out of the city. The Lord is going to destroy it. But the young men thought he was only joking. At dawn the next morning, the angels insisted, hurry. They said to Lot, take your wife and your daughters who are here. Get out of here right now, or you will be caught in the destruction of the city. When Lot still hesitated, the angels seized his hand and the hands of his wife and two daughters, and rushed them to safety outside of the city. For the Lord was merciful. Run for your lives, the angels warned. Do not stop anywhere in the valley, and do not look back. Escape to the mountains, or you will die. Oh no, my Lord, please, Lot begged. You have been so kind to me and saved my life, and you have granted me such mercy, but I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster would catch up to me there. I would soon die. See, there is a small village nearby. Please let me go there instead. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved. 21. All right, the angel said, I will grant your request. I will not destroy that little village, but hurry, for I can't do nothing until you are there. From that time on, that village will be known as Zor. The sun was rising as Lot reached the village. Then the Lord rained down fire burning sulfur from the heavens on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them, along with the other cities and villages of the plain, eliminating all life, people, plants, and animals alike. But Lot's wife looked back as she was following along behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. The next morning, Abraham was up early and hurried out to the place where he had stood in the Lord's presence. He looked out across the plain to Sodom and Gomorrah and saw columns of smoke and fumes as the furnace rising from the cities there. But God had listened to Abraham's request and kept Lot safe, removing him from the disaster that engulfed the cities on the plain. So right there we have a very disgusting chapter of the Bible. Not like God destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. That was completely justified. But we have a disgusting chapter where we have Lot, who has guests over. He brings them over. And we kind of see how Lot doesn't treat the guests as well as Abraham does, which is a direct contrast to like Abraham staying and living in a godly life. And then we have Lot, who lives in Sodom and Gomorrah, or who lives in Sodom. And he lives a terrible life. He lives a secularist life, basically. And he's a complete coward. He's a complete waste of oxygen. How he just lets the people, or he would have let those people rape his own daughters. He's a complete coward. He's a piece of garbage. And he's a direct contrast to Abraham. Abraham, in the last video we read that Abraham saved Lot. Abraham actually went out and saved Lot from captivity. And now we see that Lot isn't willing to do the same thing. He's not willing. Okay, I'm a pretty red-blooded male, high testosterone level. I'm killing those guys. They're gonna sit there and tell me that they're gonna rape whoever. I'm killing them all. I'm gonna fight. But Lot is a coward, so he doesn't do so. 19 verse 30. Afterward, Lot left Zoar because he was afraid of the people there, and he went to live in a cave in the mountains with his daughters. One day, the older daughter said to her sister, "There isn't a man anywhere in the entire area for us to marry. Our father will soon be too old to have children. Come, let's get him drunk with wine, and we will sleep with him. That way we will preserve our family line through our father." So that night they got him drunk, and the older daughter went to sleep with her father. As he was unaware of her lying down or getting up again. The next morning, the older sister said to her sister, "I slept with our father last night. Let's get him drunk with wine again tonight, and you will go in and sleep with him. That way our family line will be preserved." So that night, they got him drunk again, and the younger daughter went to sleep with him. As before, he was aware of her lying down or getting up. So both Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. When the older daughter gave birth to a son named Moab, he became the ancestor of a nation now known as the Moabites. When the younger daughter gave birth to a son, she named him Ben-Amin, and he became the ancestors of the nation known as the Amorites. And we have another disgusting part that happens in this chapter as well. We have some incest. And this chapter just keeps getting worse and worse. And the thing I find the worst about this is that most people think of Lot as the victim here. Oh, Lot got drunk and he was raped. Okay, no. Lot is their father. Lot's their father. He raised her daughters to do stuff like this. Clearly. Because where did Lot's daughters learn or think to come up with something like this? Clearly, Lot wasn't the father that he was supposed to be if they're thinking of doing something as absurd as this. No daughter would ever think to get their father drunk and sleep with their father unless the father severely failed at his job, which we can clearly see that he did. Okay, Lot clearly fails at his job at being a parent, and it's a super sad story here. And it also talks about how, it also kind of shows the disgustingness of Sodom and Gomorrah it's themselves, and how it was completely justified for them to be destroyed. Sodom and Gomorrah were so disgusting that was part of their culture as well. Everything that Lot's daughters do was part of the culture in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what they're raised up to think. That's what they're raised up to believe. And that's what they learned. And Lot did a terrible job at protecting his daughters from that kind of lifestyle. Chapter 20, verse 1. Now Abraham moved south to Negev and settled for a while between Kadesh and Shur at a place called Gerar. Abraham told the people there that his wife, Sarah, was his sister. King Abimelech sent her and had her brought to him at his place. But one night God came to Abimelech in a dream and told him, "You are a dead man, for that woman you took is married." But Abimelech had not slept with her yet. So he said, "My lord, will you kill an innocent man Abraham told me she was my sister, and she herself said, yes, he is my brother, and acted in complete innocence. Yes, I know you are innocent, God replied. That is why I kept you from sinning against me. I did not let you touch her. Now return her to her husband, sinning against me. Sorry, hold up. I lost my spot. Now return her to her husband, and he will pray for you. For he is a prophet, then you will live. But if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and your entire household will die. Abimelech got up early the next morning and hastily called a meeting for all his servants. When he told them that what had happened, great fear swept through the crowd. Then Abimelech called for Abraham. What is this you have done to us? He demanded. What have I done to you that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of a great sin? This kind of thing should not be done. Why have you done this to us? Verse 11, well, Abraham said, I figured this would be a godless place. I thought they want my wife and would kill me to get her. Besides, she is my sister. We both have the same father, though different mothers. I married her. When God sent me to travel far from my father's home, I told her, wherever I go, I have the kindness to say that you are my sister. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and servants, both men and women, and gave them to Abraham. And he returned his wife Sarah to him. Look over my kingdom and choose a place where you would like to live, Abimelech told him. Then he turned to Sarah. Look, he said, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver to compensate for my embarrassment I may have caused you. This will settle my claim against me in this matter. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and the other women of the household, so they could have children. For the Lord had stricken all of the women with infertility as a warning of Abimelech for having taken Abraham's wife. So what Abraham does here is actually wrong. So he tells the people at the city that Sarah is his sister and not his wife, because if he said it's his wife, then in order to sleep with her, they would have to kill Abraham first. So he's kind of being a coward like Lot is. So instead of saying, hey, I'm married to her, they go, hey, he goes, no, I'm her sister, or I'm her brother, so that they wouldn't kill him to sleep with her. So he goes to sleep with her anyway, and Abraham kind of lets it happen. And what was I gonna say here? And it's a pretty crappy situation, and it's not a good look. And it's another example of God willingly choosing people who do bad things and sticking with them anyway, because God doesn't need to use perfect people to do his bidding. He can use imperfect people to do his bidding. Chapter 21, verse 1. Then the Lord did exactly what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant, and she gave a son to Abraham in his old age. It all happened at the time God said it would, so it happened a year later. And Abraham named his son Isaac. 8 days after Isaac was born. Abraham circumcised him as God commanded. Abraham was he was just 100 years old at the time. And Sarah declared, God has brought me laughter. All who hear about this will laugh at me. For who would have dreamed that I would ever have a baby? Yet I have given Abraham a son in his old age. And this is once more another example of God keeping his promise with people who don't deserve a promise to be kept to them. God could very well have said, you know what, you sinned against me. You tried to lie to this person and this lie would have gotten this guy killed. So I'm no longer going to keep my promise with you. But instead of that, I said this in my last video, so it's kind of redundant. God is above us. And God's so great that he's above pettiness like that. And it makes the message of the Bible more effective that God is willing to keep his promise with people that don't deserve it. Because it completely goes against our human nature to keep promises with people that aren't good people. And that brings us to the end of our Bible study day. I hope you liked the video, guys. Please leave a comment, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys later. Peace.